Welcome to Prepare for Takeoff. I'm the creator and host, Terry L. Cyrus. We're the podcast dedicated to amplifying Black excellence. Every week, we sit down with a proven professional and rising entrepreneur. This week, we're sitting down with award-winning writer, producer, composer, Stephen Butter Anderson. Butter, what's going on, fam?
Man, what's happening?
You know how we do, man. 50 grand. You my man. So I had to have you on the platform.
Come on, I appreciate you for having me on.
First off, please allow me to give you, your much-deserved virtual flowers. We like to do that to all of our guests, man. We want to be the platform that salutes people as it relates to them being the embodiment of Black excellence. And you've been the embodiment of Black excellence for an extended period of time. I want to just give people the opportunity to see how you got here, where it all started. I know you're from Pittsburgh and you eventually moved out to the West Coast and you did your thing. You worked with Dr. Dre and Aaliyah and this person and that person. But before we get into all of that, man, I kind of want to take it back to the essence, man, the Steel City. What was it like growing up in Pittsburgh?
Pittsburgh was great. I always tell my wife, it's almost like it feels like a fantasy because times is different now, but Pittsburgh was great, man. The neighborhood I lived in was fantastic. Belt Suver, shout out, Southside. Pittsburgh was great, man. We had community days and parades and, a lot of stuff it was really good, man. The neighborhood was our playground. I still think about my mom like I could be anywhere in the neighborhood, and it's not like it was super close. I could still be blocks away, and she'd call my name when the street lights came on. Steve! I still hear it. It's crazy. Wow. But the neighborhood was beautiful, man. It was, when I look at it, hindsight at this point, I think about the fact that Pittsburgh being where it is, and Pittsburgh was like a melting pot of like East and West Coast, or East, Midwest, and West Coast. So in getting older, being in my teenage years, just thinking about even dress-wise, like we was a combination of wearing Dickies representing West Coast, but having Timbs on. You know what I mean? It was interesting far as even music, being a fan of music growing up with my parents. But once I start embracing music myself and figuring out what I liked and didn't like, because Pittsburgh was such a melting pot, I listened from anywhere to Ultramagnetic and Pete Rock or Molly Mall to 8 Ball and MJG. It was a wide spectrum of music. And I think you didn't ask this, but I thought about that. I'll think about it often. The combination of my creativity, look in hindsight, was, I think, being positioned in the best place I could be, which was Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
I'm from West Virginia, as you know, and we had a lot of those same things going on. We adopted go-go as another genre of music that we would rock to. Not sure if you guys rocked that in Pittsburgh, but yeah, we was rocking the go-go. Yeah, definitely rocking the New York flavor. And when NWA and all of that really took off, we was embracing that as well. I remember I went to see a DJ quit at a local club, so we would have everybody there. NWA came through the tour and whatnot. But you're right, we're positioned geographically in a place where we're east, but we're right next door to Ohio. Yeah. And Ohio, even though you can probably get to Ohio, especially from Pittsburgh, in a matter of minutes, we could get there in less than an hour in Charleston, West Virginia. And they are proud to be, from the Midwest, and they represent all of what that embodies, whether you're talking Zap Band, Roger Troutman, Atlantic Star, the Ohio Players. There was so many different people from Ohio that really was the embodiment of the Midwest sound. So you can't be that close to that and it have no impact on what your musical taste consists of. So now, with that being said, did that impact your decision to go to the West Coast opposed to coming to New York to pursue your musical aspirations?
Definitely not. No, it didn't. To be honest, man, keep it a buck. When I finally did leave Pittsburgh, I left because, the options that I saw was dead or in jail from my peers. And I didn't want either one of them. And I was in the position to where either one of them could have happened. So at some point I picked up and I moved to Atlanta. I had a friend in Atlanta, Mailman, shout out. He was in Atlanta and he was with a cousin of his, and I went to Atlanta to, I guess I could say, escape what could have been a destiny that's not favorable.
Right.
So I ended up in Atlanta and was there for about a year and a half before I transitioned to California.
So did you and Mailman go out to LA together, or how did that happen?
No, before I left Pittsburgh, I ended up in California for a mutual friend of ours named Sam Sneed.
Okay.
And Sam, you know, he did the song "Think You Better Recognize" that was on. I think that was on "Murder Was the Case," or I forget what soundtrack that was on. But I ended out there because of him. I seen him in Pittsburgh. He's from Pittsburgh as well. I had seen him. I think it was like a Christmas break or something. He came home, and being that he was out there with Dre and them, man, it's like a superstar came home. You know what I'm saying? He came home, and I happened to bump into him at a bar from where he lived in McKeesport. And we was talking, and he was like, "Bud, I want you to come to California, man. Help me with my record. I'm signing a deal with Death Row, and I want you to come out and help." And I'm like, "Okay, bet." I wasn't fluently doing music. I had kind of was doing it on the side. I was into all type of other stuff, but I could pick it up whenever I wanted to. Had done a lot of music prior to that. And when he asked me, said, "Okay, cool. Yeah, that's cool." But I took everything with a grain of salt. He said it, but it is what it is. Life is still going on. I'm still doing whatever I'm doing. Time passed. And quite honestly, you know, I had pushed from Pittsburgh, and I thought to myself, "Oh, he ain't gonna call." Like, you know, it is what it is.
Right.
And I kept it pushing. This dates us, but I called home at some point. Well, called my mother at some point from Atlanta, and she said, "Hey, Sam has been trying to reach you." I said, "Oh, okay, cool." She said, he told me to give you his number and give him a call. So I called Sam, and he's like, "Bud, hey man, it's time, man. I want you to come out." I'm like, "Word? Okay." I'm like, "Okay, bet." He's like, "It's gonna be a little rough out here." I think he's like, "It's gonna be 6 of us in a 2-bedroom apartment." He's like, "It's gonna be a little rough." I said, "Man, I don't care. It's all good." So I was the first to go out to California, and at that point, there was another guy from Pittsburgh out there, Stooby Doo. Shout out Stooby Doo. He went out there before I did. So I was out there with Sam, and Mailman came out eventually, but it was after the Death Row split. When Dre left Death Row and wanted to start his own company, that's around the time that Mel came out. I had requested for Mel to come out with Dre. I told Dre, this guy Mel, he's a dope producer. We ain't even talk about rapping. We was talking about producing. No, I'm sorry. We was talking about rapping, not even producing, because Mel was a local rapper in Pittsburgh, and he, you know, is well known in Pittsburgh as a local rapper. So we eventually had Mel come out. Dre flew him out, and he had a song actually on that Aftermath record. And when I split, Mel stayed around and ended up doing production too, because Mel knew how to produce as well, but he rapped too. You know, just multiple talents. So yeah, to long story longer, you know, I left from Atlanta to LA, and then eventually we got Mel to come out.
Okay. Now, so you went out there, so you were down with Death Row during the period in which Dre and Suge were still working together. So I'm assuming that was working with Snoop. Did that also include Tupac, or what were some of the acts that you were working with, or did it even predate some of that as far as working with Ice Cube, the Lynch Mob, and all of that? Like, which one came first?
Oh, that's a good question. It was the tail end. It was like I came out there in 90, into 95, beginning of 96. And what record was Snoop on? Murder Was the Case had came out, and it was at the tail end of all that stuff. It was right around the time when Natural Born Killers, right after that, Natural Born Killers with Ice Cube and Dr. Dre. When that came out, that's around the time I came out. And we shot Sam's video, and I was there for, prior to the split, I was there for California Love and all of that stuff. So getting to meet Pac and a beat that I did, and this is fast forward. This story, we'd be here for so long, man. It's just, it's a novel in the makings, real talk. But long story, trying to be short, Dre found out about me through a guy named, well, he knew about me from Sam because I would be around. And he just knew me really as one of Sam's homies. He might have knew I did beats, but he kept everything separate. I wouldn't have known whatever. But there was a guy named Jay Flex. Shout out Jay Flex. He used to write to my beats. He's from Ohio, actually.
Okay.
He used to write to my beats, and because Dre didn't necessarily stockpile a whole bunch of beats, you know what I mean, to write to. Like, so Flex used to write to my beats just so he could be ahead of the game. So when Dre was ready for him, he'd have stuff already stockpiled. And he happened to be writing to one of my beats at Dre's crib in Calabasas in the studio. And Dre came in and was like, "What's that? What's that?" And he said, "That's Butter." He's like, "Who?" And he explained who I was. And that beat was the beat that they used for the Pac, for California Love in the beginning when Chris Tucker's talking and all that, the beat that's playing before it shifts into the whole video. That's the beat that Dre heard. And that's how I ended up around Dre in his camp. And he approached me during the time he was making that transition. But all of this was still prior to, this is West Side Connection and Ice Cube and all that stuff happened all before this.
Okay.
So I was out there and I was just playing my part. I was grateful to be out there, and I've always loved to do what I do. I've always loved music from conception to fruition. Every single part of it, I've loved it. So I was just out there doing that. I wasn't out there going to strip clubs or nothing. I was on the floor with my drum machine, just loving to do what I did, you know?
Right.
And it only took me to land one thing. My first placement was with a group called Caution that Sam connected me with, because he was signed to Death Row. There were certain things he couldn't do. So as a crew, he was doing the Magic Johnson behind the back pass to have stuff still flow.
Right.
So he connected me with Caution, and Caution was a group of Ice Cubes that I ended up with 2 songs on their album. I'm saying that to say, once I got a check for my first placement, my mind was, I was beelining for like just creativity. Like I didn't want to do nothing else. I'm like, man, for what I had on this little floppy disk, you gonna pay me for what's on this little floppy disk? You know what I'm saying?
What you would have did for free.
Man, what I would have did for free. And the funny thing is, I always tell this story, and I'm telling it for testimony's sake, not for flex sake or nothing like that, but it blows my mind to this day. Sam was like, "Hey, they're gonna use 2 of the joints that you sent them." I'm like, "Oh, word." He's like, "They're gonna give you 5 a piece for it." I was like, "Word, bet." I was pumped. I'm like, "Man, for what's on this little floppy disk, they're gonna give me 500 a piece." He's like, "No, they'll give you 5,000 a piece."
Man,
I was
this
done.
is back then.
I was done. At that point, I was done. For something I love to do, on this little floppy disk, something that I'll keep turning stuff over and turning it over and turning it over for what I love to do. That's what's gonna happen. Which, hindsight, when I think about it now, there's certain principles that I learned. No, correction. There's certain principles that I know now that I operated in then, that I had no idea what I was doing, that I know now that I put into play. You know what I'm saying? And one of them is, and I always say this, it's not going to come out correctly. It's not going to sound correct, but it's a mental thing that you have to put in your mind. And that's undercommit and over deliver.
Right.
And what I mean by that, undercommitting is just committing in general. And if you operate in excellence, your 30 minutes could be somebody else's 6 hours. What you do in 30 minutes is somebody else's 6-7 hours. You know what I'm saying? So even if you operate and you don't put a whole bunch of time in it, but you allow your gift to make room for you, it'll be like somebody else's 8 hours, if I'm making sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it may not take you much to get it to the place to where it's coming out in excellence. So undercommit, over deliver. So that principle is like, if somebody asks you for 2, you give them 6 back. Nobody is gonna, in this world, there's very few that's gonna over deliver, you know, and it's very admirable to be able to, have a handshake and like, okay, this is what we agreed upon, and you do it, and it's great, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. It's very admirable. But you ask anybody, like even in business, I'm sure if you ask somebody to do something for you and you asked them and you really needed it and they came through, but they came through with 5 more of what it is that you needed as options for you, that's your homie. You're like, hey, whenever I'm looking for whatever, I'm coming to you. You know what I mean? So saying that to say, you know, I didn't realize it, you know, back in the day, just because I love to do what I do, you know, and I think about it, and I thank God to be able to go back and think about, man, Ice Cube, West Side Connection, or let's even go back, Caution record, Ice Cube's group. I end up with 2 songs on the record. How many beats I give him? Oh, I might have gave him about 40 beats. Okay. Ice Cube, a West Side Connection album, ended up with 7 songs on there. How many did I end up giving Cube? I don't know, maybe 150.
Right.
Aaliyah or Aftermath Records, 7 songs. How many songs you end up doing? I can't even count. Aaliyah, I recorded 2 full albums with writers and everything to try to solidify whatever I could, because I wanted to not only please her, but I wanted to operate in excellence. And I ended up with 3 songs on her last record. It's not a flex, but it's like not everybody's going to do that. And the goal now really is not losing that, not losing the hunger that you have to be like, every decision. I see stuff still like I used to, you know, to a certain degree, but just in having that hunger to where I always want to outdo myself and operate in excellence and not necessarily compete with nobody, unless it's friendly competition, because friendly competition is good, especially with you with a team of other people that's good. I know there's times I've always been, as it relates to friendly competition, like, oh, I'm gonna smash these cats, you know, oh, I'm gonna smash. Okay, it's just friendly competition, and you don't try to emulate each other. I think things today, a lot of people try to emulate each other, but when I started, it was like, okay, who could be the most diverse? What country or city can I buy records from that I could sample that nobody heard before? It was about being authentic and coming to the table with stuff that nobody heard before. And that's what I miss. I know we ain't go into that, but I miss that in the game.
I think the game now is like very rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And that's one of the things that frustrates me with hip hop. Growing up, we had a menu of options as far as what art form we wanted to consume. When we wanted to be educated, we could listen to Acclaimed or Public Enemy. If we wanted to hear reality rap, we can listen to NWA. Speaking of flexing, give them a little flex on some of the artists you've worked with.
We talked about Dr. Dre. We didn't talk about Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg, Exhibit, Aaliyah, Nas, Onyx, Tank, just to name a few.
I know you're being humble, but I'm your hype man. I want to tell them about the American Music Awards. I want to tell them about the Emmys. I want to tell them about all the awards you have. We want to make certain that our guests are getting the flowers they deserve. And more importantly, I want our viewers and listeners to understand this is a brother that, despite how humble he is, despite how down to earth he is, his beginnings were probably similar to yours. Maybe there's some things that he had to navigate as a young man. And then he dared to dream. And despite some of the things that may have discouraged other people, man, I'm not going to no 2-bedroom with 6 people. You bugging. Yeah. But he said, look, this is what I want to do. And this sure beats the alternative. If I go back home, I could be dead in jail. So I'm going to believe in myself. And I feel as though God rewards those who walk and step out on faith. And you're a telltale of that.
That's so true. Any advancement forward, even if it's a baby step, is still a step. I think the thing that separates all of us is actually moving when we're supposed to move. We all got the same 24 hours in the day. And the only thing that separates me from the next man is carrying out whatever vision or moving forward. I think God equips us with everything that we need I'll probably say 90% of the things that I've been fortunate to be involved with, when I feel like I have all the resources and everything at my fingertips to be able to pull something off and complete something in excellence. And I'll say this financially, creatively, like, oh man, I want to be on this project. I'm gonna get live strings and these horn players. We have a choir here and this, that, and the other. 90% of the time when I operate in that and I feel I have it grasped in my hands, that's the stuff that ends up not landing.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about takeoff and landing. That's the stuff that don't land. The stuff that lands a lot of times is the stuff that, you know, I think about something we talked about earlier, jumping into something that you don't necessarily know how to, it's new for you. Even in me pivoting from music as it relates to records to music as it relates to film and TV, it was a learning curve for me because it's two, even though it's still music, it's two different dialects, almost like two different
Mm-hmm.
languages, two
Right.
different groups of sets of people, two different decision makers, and two different, it's all different. It may open the door for you to get in to a certain extent from what you did in this realm to move into this realm, but you have to learn a whole new set of tools. So when I went into film and television, and the first show that I ever did that I was fortunate enough to be able to do was The Proud Family on Disney Channel. A friend of ours introduced me to Bruce Smith, who's the creator, and they were looking for a new composer. I had never composed nothing ever. I thought about it at some point, like, man, it'd be cool to do a cartoon. That was just a thought. And I'm saying all that to say, I got the opportunity to audition for the show and ended up getting it. But man, those years doing the show, especially starting out, was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. This was in an interesting time too, bro. When I started working on Proud Family, this is after Aaliyah passed. And right after Aaliyah passed, 9/11 happened. And it was so many things everything was upside down.
Mm-hmm.
And out of the sky comes this great opportunity to be able to do this television show. And I had never done TV before, never done scoring. I'm self-taught in hip hop. I was self-taught in hip hop, like sampling. You can't use none of that for TV. You've got to throw all of that out the window.
Right.
Everything you thought you knew, like, yeah, you could use some of those skills, but throw it out the window. But the beautiful thing is to be able to balance it, because I think one thing that allows me to stay as an individual as it relates to film and TV is the balance of still keeping certain nuances of what was special for me in record producing and being self-taught in hip hop, and combining that with, yeah, nah, bro, you can't sample no more. Or no, it has to be all original. Oh no, you gotta look at this picture and score something to make the feeling match. All of that stuff is stuff I had to learn. But I tell anybody at this point, we got to do the hard things. Those hard things is just a sharpening. It's a sharpening of our sword, a sharpening of our gift. And there's times that I thought, man, why did I sign on for this? It's a cool opportunity, but dang. And those shows, that Proud Family, that was a beast to start with, because they had wall-to-wall music cues.
Mm-hmm.
And I had favor. I got to say that. Big shout out to Bruce Smith, my brother, another good brother. Y'all got a link. Bruce knew of my music beforehand. So like I said, certain things may be a door in, but you still got to be able to do what you got to do in that whole other realm. Like if somebody knew you could play basketball, but you've been playing football, they might let you on the court, but you got to still show up. So I had favor with Bruce because he walked me through, man. Relationships are everything. A lot of people burn bridges and all this goofy stuff. Relationships are everything. So Bruce, literally, he held my hand through that. If it had been anybody else, I don't know that I'd be doing film and TV today. He walked me through, well, you might want to think about this approach, bud, or what about this, something here, and this, that, and the other. He walked me through it. And I'm a firm believer that anything that we we're able to get through and have success, and it just makes us that much stronger to go on to the next thing. I always envision it like jumping in the pool and learning how to swim after. I'm saying I'm hot. There's a pool there. I don't know how to swim, but I'm hot and I'm jumping in this mug. I'm gonna learn how to swim. And that's how I gotta be. So I had to learn not only looking at picture, creating music to fit the picture, not sampling, being able to sync the time code of the video with the computer, how to work it. I used to always have an engineer in my session that would do everything for me. I had to figure out how to operate the session and upload, and it was nuts. But hindsight, looking back on it, and I tell a lot of my writers and stuff now, like there's some people that want to get into music licensing and write songs for film and TV. And I tell them that the best thing that you could do is invest in yourself and being able to record yourself. That's number one. You know, and I just told somebody the other day, I have my people get setups that's similar to what I got so I can get them a template. And then I just let them know the more you record, the easier it'll get for you. And then hindsight, you'll look back on it like, man, somebody else will see you moving around fast. And it's like, oh, this came through trial and error. This ain't necessarily always a look at YouTube and find it out. It's about actually going through and looking at the buttons. And I know anytime we pivot into something that we don't know, you be able to spit something to somebody else like, oh, this is all you decided to do. But somebody just jumping into it, they'd be like, oh man, what am I going to do? How is this? So that pivot was interesting for me because each episode for Proud Family, and I'm just kind of guesstimating, it might have had 40 music cues in an episode, right? Now, these music cues might only be 6, 7 seconds, 2 seconds, 11 seconds, but each of those music cues had to be a full song, meaning like it had to feel like it was 3 seconds from a 3-minute song. You feel what I'm saying? Essentially, I'm sitting there feeling at some point, man, what am I doing? I used to do one song, get paid this amount for it.
Right.
Now I'm getting paid a quarter of the amount or less for doing 40 music cues for this show. It's a good opportunity, but dang.
A lot of work.
Not even, I'm like, how does this work? This, that, and the other, until you get through it and then understand all the other components that which you work so hard for, like royalties from TV. And then it changes your whole perspective.
Like, I get it now. I'm glad I did it.
You're like, give me 4 shows now.
Right. I'll figure it out.
But yeah, I'll figure it out.
100%. God was preparing you from way back.
Yeah.
And he was preparing you for the adversity that you were going to be facing at some point in time, whether it was the transition and pivot that you made to television, or whether the fear that most people would have had to even make the jump into the pool because they don't know how to swim. I'm not from the West Coast. I'm not going out here with 6 dudes. And do I even fit in this room? And these are icons. Like, who am I to think that I can produce a beat with Dr. Dre? Or who am I to think that I can work with Aaliyah? Who am I to think that I can work with Ice Cube? These are people that I'm sure you grew up listening to.
Yeah.
First off, you have to be made to feel like you belong. So you had that faith in yourself, right?
Yeah.
And then based on the faith you had in yourself, and then the success that came from you having that faith in yourself, investing that time, energy, and effort to learn a skill set that you may not have known, and you have done it before. Like the Proud Family, that was a transition that was new for you then, but so was producing. I know you DJ'd since you was a kid. So going from being a DJ to being a music producer, that's a transition. And then you're making that transition at the highest level. Like you weren't in Pick a City when they were trying to get put on the hip hop map. You were going to the West Coast and you were working with arguably one of the best producers in the business, West or East Coast. You were working with somebody that eventually was going to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Music Hall of Fame. You were working with this icon of a person, and you're like, look, but it's all good because I'm butter from Pittsburgh, and I'm gonna figure it out because I'm gonna give it 100 with you. I ain't going back home, and that's no different than having the mindset about an athlete.
Yeah.
So adversity and not knowing how to do something is not going to discourage you. You're going to be encouraged by that, because the same too as myself, because I'm the kind of person, I'm looking at it like this. The average person ain't built like me. So I want it to be difficult, because I know that's going to eliminate a whole lot of people.
So
A lot of
true.
people, they're not built for this. They don't have the lung capacity. The further you go up that mountain, the air gets thinner and thinner and thinner. And I'm like, yo, I do breathing exercises for this. I'm built for this.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I'm going to figure it out.
I totally agree. And it's that very thing that keeps us going, you know, to this day. It keeps me going to this day, you know. And I try to you know, relay that to all the people that I work with at this point, to be able to give opportunities for people in different places that may not have opportunities to be involved with national or international projects. That's part of my purpose at this point. I see our creativity is like we're birthing something, right? And if you think about a natural childbirth, no matter how the child is born into this world, whatever the circumstance is, when the child is born and is able to survive, it has purpose in life, right? So I see creativity the same way. Like anything musically, hindsight, just looking back on stuff, man, there's certain songs or beats that I've done before in the past that I can look back on and I'm like, dang, I remember the 12th hour. I'm like, okay, let me do one more. And I did it. And it was supposed to be for one thing. It didn't get used for that. 6 years go down the line, somebody end up picking it for something that it was so much better for. So it's like, you know, but you got to get it out. I always say nothing is for naught. Anything that we're able to birth has a purpose. You may birth an idea, but when you birth an idea, just like if it was a child, you try to think about all the things, you think about the giftings that they have. You think about all of the bonus and plus things that they have in their life that can propel them where they need to be or where you like to see them. I mean, how you can pull back the bow and shoot the arrow in the direction it needs to go. It's not a one-track thing. There's so many different things. I think about my kids, man, and I think about, man, we prayed that they would exceed anything that we've ever done in life. And, you know, they're early in life and have already done that. You know what I mean? With some of the things that they're doing. So saying that to say, one of my sons may compose or play classical piano. One may play cello, but there's so many other avenues, because I believe that, you know, God says there's all things work together for the good. So like there's in all of those things, it all comes together. Like cello's not separate from TV hosting. TV hosting isn't separated from being able to act. You know, being able to act is not separated from being able to speak somewhere. So like there's so many components to what we birth, just like we talked about, even as it relates to content. So something may live on YouTube, but it gets chopped up. It's going to be here, 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 here. And it's that many more seeds that are planted to be able to have a bigger harvest, because it's all over. You don't know what medium somebody is going to be able to get your content from. Early on, I always wanted to play the background. I still do to a certain degree. And I understand that there's some peers that was around when I was starting and they didn't play the background, and they're at certain places now. But I understand that there's a pacing that God had me on and has me on, that there's certain things that I need to be privy to. There's certain things that I didn't need to, it's directions that he has me on to be able to be content, to be able to still have balance, because in this industry, if you don't got balance, you know, you could be very successful in certain things, but you won't have balance. You know, I've always desired balance. I understand that even in my marriage is a ministry, you know, how we walk together, our family is a ministry. Everything has to do with, it's bigger than just what we do. We operate in excellence in what we do, but it's for the well-being, to be able to come back to a place of balance for everybody. I had to learn certain things that's simple, but it's not simple if you don't think about it. So like creativity, I always say now that like situations in life breeds creativity. Somebody that's hitting their head against the wall as it relates to having writing block and, oh, I can't come up with music for this, or I'm trying to write this score and this, or I'm trying to write this movie and I'm getting a writer's block, it's most likely you're putting all your eggs in one basket and making something an idol, and you're staying in this one place, and that's why you got blocked. You got to get out and do other things.
Mm-hmm.
Go see a movie, take off a couple days and do a staycation or a vacation. Do something different, because life breeds creativity. To me, I'll come back even more refreshed. I'll come back to where what would have took me longer takes me less. And it's important that we do that.
This episode of Prepare for Takeoff is brought to you in part by Riverside, the platform that I trust to record studio quality podcasts right from my laptop. With Riverside, I get crystal clear audio and 4K video. Plus, it's super easy to use. Whether you're a beginner or a pro, Riverside helps your podcast sound amazing. Try it out for yourself. Click the affiliate link in our show notes and start recording like a pro with Riverside. You've accumulated some awards, to say the least, American Music Award, and you've accumulated an Emmy and Telly Awards. So talk us through like what it was like to have those pinch me moments, and what were some of those awards for over your career?
To be honest, it's been interesting. I think even in obtaining gold and platinum plaques back in the day,
mm-hmm.
I'm always kind of ahead, and I'm grateful for it. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, what's next? I'm grateful for the accolades, but at the same time, I'm like, what's next? What's next? Even to the fact that, like, for instance, you can't outgive God, man. I know I don't want to make this seem crazy or whatever. Like, certain things that are even a labor of love, you never know how relationships or certain things that you're involved with that's good turn out in a way that is priceless. So even in thinking about the Emmy that I was able to win, I'm grateful for being involved with the project it was involved with, and for the timely is like part of history. You know what I mean? I think about it like this: how 90 seconds could change your life, or 60 seconds could change your life. It was for a PSA during the time of like George Floyd and other things that was happening in the riots and the protests, and it was called Unspeakable, and it was touching on the deaf and hard of hearing, and the fact that everybody has a voice. And you wouldn't think about the fact that, like, you wouldn't think about everybody has a voice, and how do you communicate? How does somebody communicate and speak their voice when you can't speak? You understand what I'm saying? So Unspeakable was a PSA that we won the Emmy for. Shout out Emmy Award-winning. He's my homeboy. It was birthed from him. He's actually from Pittsburgh too. Pittsburgh brother. Good brother.
Wow.
Shout out Emmy. But saying that to say, I remember watching the broadcast with all of the winners, and I'm sitting down with my family, and we sitting down, and we had snacks. My wife got all type of stuff. We just sitting there watching it. It pops up, and it wins. Emmy, they mentioned Emmy. And for whatever reason in my mind, I didn't even put two and two together. We're cheering for Emmy. Emmy, oh. We pumped up.
Right.
Text him that night. A couple days later, I'm doing something basic, simple. I'm cleaning the garage or something. He called me. What's up, big bro? I'm like, what's up? Congratulations, man. This, that, and the other. It was like, congratulations. He's like, congratulations to you. You won too. I'm like, oh, snap. Crazy.
Man.
Crazy. But saying that to say, Unspeakable won the Emmy, and it also won a Telly Award, which I was elated for both of them. And we're working on a project now that is monumental also, and it's called The Ebony Canal, and it's dealing with Black infant mortality rate as it relates to how, as a people, stuff is just different for us, or different for women as it relates to birthing and even the hospital in general. There's a lot of things that we realized, even with my mother-in-law and her being in the hospital for so long. And like my wife, she literally was in the hospital day and night. She stayed there. I would bring her changes of clothes. And it's almost like when you're there, you're able to be a fly on the wall and see and experience everything that's happening, to be able to advocate for somebody or to be able to translate something. And saying that to say, I think about the fact that, like, how important it is for us to be able to, especially as it relates to birthing and anything far as the hospital, our people have been through so much. We've been experimenting on back in the day. And like, there's certain things that still kind of exist to this day. So that project, and that's another project that I'm involved with Ime. It's had a lot of traction. It's won a lot of awards. It's been in different film festivals all around the world. And to date, we have won 6 Telly Awards, and we just won 3 Webby Awards, which I wasn't necessarily privy of what a Webby Award was until this year. And when I looked it up, I'm like, man, this has been existing for a while. And like this year, a lot of people, like Snoop won a Webby Award this year. There's a lot of people that won one this year. So I'm grateful that, you know, in being involved with projects with purpose, help to change lives, man. That's what it's all about. I believe as a youth and being in younger age, I did a lot of things that definitely not happy about, and wasn't cautious of. Like I just was just moving. But at this point in life, and just understanding that like every move, every decision, everything matters. If I could help to be some kind of an influence for good, for somebody to not have to go through a thing, or for somebody to be inspired in some kind of way, I want to be that. And sometimes it's not even with words, it's about movement. Somebody could just pick up your movement and your aura and see how you, or the decisions you make. You know, God says what you do in private, he'll bless openly. So like, say for instance, somebody working out in private, when they come out, they ain't got to say a word. People already know, like, man, what you been doing?
Yeah.
I want some of what you got.
Right. Absolutely.
But that's the work it takes. There's a lot that you do behind the scenes. People see the fruit of how things come out, and it's glittery, it's perfect, and this, that, and the other. But like what we do in private, God blesses openly. He puts it out there, and it inspires people. And I know that you on that. I'm definitely on that. My family's on that. We understand. I didn't have that. There's a couple people that tried to speak into my life in the past, and because of my mindset, a lot of stuff I blocked out. So, and it may have been the approach. I don't know what it was, but at this point, I just want to be an advocate for change in any kind of way I can, whether it's through music or speaking, whatever it is. Just understanding that all things work together for me to be able to do that, and just understanding what all of those gifts are that I have and how they could be used in different areas.
Yeah, I'm sure you've heard it more than once, man, but you're a walking testimony, and you definitely have a story to tell. I'm sure the story is beyond what an hour can capture. I realize you've been in this game for a long time, but I want to encourage you to continue to share your story, because similar to you, I'm also very motivated to advocate for those who may not necessarily have the same resources that you and I may have, or show people examples of people who look like themselves, and then more importantly, expose them to things that they can be. I can't dream, to be something that I don't know exists. I don't see it. So if I only see people on the screen, and those are the people who get the most light. I may not know I can be a producer. I may not know I can be a composer. I can be a writer. I could be an A&R. I could be a manager, a publicist, whatever. I think a lot of the reasons why we don't necessarily have the same success rate in some instances in our community is a lack of exposure. We're overexposed to negativity, but we're underexposed to all of the things that will allow us to flourish. And I'm sure that's by design. And we can talk about all of the ills that we have in our community, but the only people that's going to be responsible for fixing the ills in our community are the people who are from those communities. And it's imperative that people like myself and you, we have to go back to those communities. We have to pour back into those individuals who may not necessarily have had those same opportunities to have people pour into them, whether it's on an educational level, whether it's on a professional level, because none of us, I know I didn't, I'm sure you didn't as well, none of us landed on third base. Nobody, like some of the people who will remain nameless, who happened to occupy an address on Pennsylvania Avenue, they inherited a lot of things. I mean, of course, they're going to have you to believe that I have these things because of hard work and dedication. And I'm not saying that that individual may not have put in some work, but when you grow up on third base, then am I going to be surprised that you make it home? Man, we didn't even have a ride to the baseball field.
Man, come on. And third base don't even just mean a hand at third base. Third base is mentally, physically, spiritually. It's so many different things. It's third base is sitting down at the dinner table and discussing balancing the checkbook.
Mm-hmm.
Third base is telling somebody about being able to put their assets in certain places to secure them.
Right.
So third base is like, oh, that chunk of money, put it in an insurance policy and this, that, and the other. It's third base is so many things.
Right.
It's the handoff, but it's handing a clean baton, or I can't say it's all clean for everybody, but it's handing a baton off that has information on it to follow. And
you read my mind.
What's interesting, I think with society, because there's so many things put out there and it makes it seem like there's so many different options, and there is, but I think a lot of times what we're missing, and I pray I could articulate this, I think a lot of times what we're missing is the fact of being able to set up legacy, and then our children actually wanting to not just adopt that legacy, but carry it on. Because I see in a lot of places to where somebody may be successful, but for whatever reason, their children may not. We saw a movie the other day, and I hadn't seen it before, and it was interesting. I thought about it then. That's why I'm bringing it up. It was a Adam Sandler movie. It was called The Cobbler, right? It's about the shoemaker or whatnot, or somebody that was dealing with shoes. And what was interesting is his dad had a shoe repair place, and the shoe repair place, his dad handed it down to him. And at some point, he was regretting even being involved with it. He was like, he ain't understand what a blessing it was, a legacy of not only a business handed down, but a craft handed down. And somebody had to explain to him, like, it wasn't just, yeah, it was your dad, but he did it with pride, and his dad did it with pride. We don't have those stories. We don't have enough of those stories to where something was handed down and we're able to carry it on, not just financially, but carry on something that's legacy to where it's a flex. My mother-in-law, she passed recently, as you know, and this is left field from what we're talking about, but it's right on the spot. And this is part of knowing your legacy and knowing what you're part of. There was a girl in the funeral home that we were talking to. She was a daughter of one of the owners of the funeral home or something. Long story short, or long story longer, she had mentioned she was going back and forth with somebody, and she was like, she's in school. She said this, that, and the other. And I can't remember how it came up, but she was like, yeah, my family's had this business for 120 years. And that was a flex like a mug, but that was like knowing, like, man, you can have an option to do whatever it is that you want to do, but you also know that you have that solid foundation of what your family has set up legacy wise, that, you know, you can do what you desire to do, and you have this family legacy that you have the not only the option to carry on, but it just makes us not have to put all our eggs in one basket. You know what I mean?
Talk to me about some of the things you're doing in television now, man. I know you're doing a lot of different things as it pertains to licensing. Talk to us about some of the things that you're doing presently in that space.
Yeah, I'm actually doing music licensing now. So you asked me earlier about songwriting, and I think it might have been when we was off camera, do I still rap or and I do those things at times now, because sometimes I've been doing music licensing and for a bunch of different shows. Like now we're on the 4th season of BMF. So seasons 1 through 4, I've been involved with all of that music wall to wall as it relates to licensing, as well as The Chi, as well as Raising Kanan. All of the 50 shows, you'll hear music in there from myself and like a team that I put together of writers that do songs for those shows. So from time to time, I will record, you know, myself and have a song put in something. So yeah, I pivoted kind of into music licensing, and earlier this year or late last year, I finished a project with Sesame Street dealing with civics, to where we did a bunch of live action songs, like 20 live action songs dealing with civics. So that was fun too.
Man, now you talking about somebody who has range. You know, you went from 50 to Sesame Street.
What's funny is I had gotten when I got the Emmy, I did a photo shoot, and I actually had gotten a T-shirt made that said "From Cube to Cookie." So you know, because I got the opportunity at some point to write a song for Cookie Monster, well, Mecha Cookie Monster. I did a theme song for a show called Mecha Builders year before last. And it's the first time that Sesame Street did a animation. It was like a gamble. They did an animation and did a show. And for me to be involved with that, I feel fortunate because they had never done that before. You know, earlier in my career, I was involved with Disney and Sesame Street, and they wasn't related because this is years ago. There's a show that I did that was the first Muppet Disney collaboration. So a lot of firsts. You know, the Proud Family was the first Black animation on the Disney Channel. So at this point, I don't do a lot of records for people, with the exception of certain things that I do for TV that ends up getting put on a record. Like I did a song with Chloe Bailey for a soundtrack that got put out, Praise This movie. But also certain songs that I do at this point, it's like a sharpening. Like I still get I'm still able to be creative and do records because I'm doing them for TV and I don't have to, and it's fun because you think about it like BMF, for instance, first season when we started doing BMF, big shout out to my man Big Tank, he was music supervisor over all of these shows. The beautiful thing is they're period shows. So when we started doing BMF, we was in the 80s. So everything had to feel like the 80s. They had it looking like the 80s. It had to sound like the 80s. I mean, and we lived through the 80s. And it's not rocket science to revamp things to make it feel a certain way. We were at the conception of hip hop and lived through it. So it's been fun to be able to do stuff genre wise and time period wise and fit into those spaces. Raising Kanan and all those shows are 90s shows. So we lived through the 90s. I've done music through the 90s. I know it backwards and forwards. So we don't know how God is preparing us. We live through certain things, but you don't know how we're being prepared for it until we actually get into the moment. Right. You know, you said something earlier. By my parents listening to so many different types of music, and by being placed in Pittsburgh, which we talked about demographically, it helped me to be able to get into music a certain way and have a different ear and mindset for how something should sound and mixing certain things together. When I started doing music on the West Coast, even though I was out there with West Coast, my mindset was like, man, I love Diamond D and Pete Rock and East Coast sounding drums. So I'm going to put these drums over some West Coast synth sounds and mix it together and make a gumbo. And it ended up working because it was just creatively, and it's just whatever. Nothing is lost. So TV is the same thing, especially with these shows, being able to do period pieces. Even for us as a people, when do we as a people get a chance to have a period piece of like have a nostalgic 80s moment? Every now and then we get that. You know what I mean? Good point. It's been really fun to delve in that basket and play with those moments. It's been really fun with all of those shows. So the Chi, BMF, Raising Kanan, we did the Tyson documentary thing. We did Swagger. It's just a bunch of music and a lot of stuff you wouldn't even know that I'm involved with, but I'm grateful to keep the chops going and give other people opportunities to be able to be on some of these projects. There's another guy I need to connect you with, my man Big Tank. He just got a show too called Man Behind the Music. I'll send you the link to it, but shout out Big Tank. But just involved in those things right now. I mean, as well as my family, there's so many projects we're doing, bro. It's insane. My wife just finished
give me a couple of them real quick.
Well, my wife just finished a play, and if it went up in February, and we're figuring out what the next steps of that is dealing with for abolitionists that you know, are not talked about. You know, when it comes around to Black history, a lot of times we talk about the same characters, which are great people that existed and did great things, but this play is kind of circling around 4 people, well, 3 specifically, that you may not have heard of, that have done great things that aren't talked about. So, you know, that along with, you know, we're doing some filming with my younger son. He just did last year. He was able to go to Carnegie Hall and play the cello. It's just a lot of different things going on, script wise, animations. It's a lot to juggle, you know. It's all good, to say the least.
Your whole family is the embodiment of Black excellence. And please allow me to salute you, not just you, but your wife. And just full disclosure for our viewers and listeners, I met you guys on the red carpet. So
that's right.
That's how we connected, because you were there with one of your projects. So, man, I've been privy to your greatness for some time now. So I wanted to give our viewers and listeners the opportunity to just get just a fraction of some of the things that you're involved in. Like I said, you know, we have multiple shows to capture it all. But I want to get, you know, at least give you that opportunity to share some of those things, you know, and I'm sure there will be more that they can see by tapping into your journey, your wife's journey on the different platforms that we'll get to. I did want to give you the opportunity to share with our viewers and listeners 3 things that you feel will help them prepare for takeoff.
Prepare for takeoff, 3 things. Even if I think about it metaphorically, I think about, you got to get on the runway, number 1. If you ain't on the runway, you ain't going nowhere. So whatever it is that you desire to do, you got to get on the runway. You might not have the plane yet, but you don't know. You might get on the runway and somebody gift you a plane, but you got to get on the runway. So get in position. That's number 1. Okay. Number 2, you got to start running. You got to start running down the runway. You got to start going like towards the destination. You don't see it. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So you might feel crazy running down the runway and not knowing how you're going to take off, but you got to start running first. So get in position, start running. Once you're in position, and then jump. That's the 3rd one. Jump.
I like that.
You ain't know you had wings until you jump. You jump, like we talked about earlier, jumping in the pool and learning how to swim later. Jump.
Mm-hmm.
Jump. I don't think I completed the thought earlier, but like a lot of times it's when I have limited resources, those are the things that work.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that's great is birthed out of adversity. It's birthed out of a lack. When you don't realize that there's another way that would be easier to hold a baby unless you had a baby. Mm-hmm. You ain't gonna think about a stroller a different way until you actually do it. So you got to jump in. Mm-hmm. So those are the 3 things I could think about. And metaphorically, I think they work. I'm saying, get in position. You got to get on that runway. You got to run towards wherever, and you got to jump. 1, 2, 3. Take off.
Thinking about starting your own business? Make it real with Shopify, the all-in-one platform trusted by millions to sell online and in person, whether it's merch, art, or digital goods. Shopify gives you the tools to build, grow, and succeed. And here's the best part. When you sign up using the affiliate link in our show notes, you're supporting Prepare for Takeoff and starting your business off right. Click the link and start your free trial today. I just want to salute you and all of what, not just you do, but your wife does, your children, man. I'm just in awe. You guys are a walking testament of a creative version of the Huxtables.
Oh, praise God. Thank you.
Hey, man. And I'm so impressed. And I want to also give you the opportunity to share with our viewers and listeners how they can tap in with you, your family, and so they can continue to be kept abreast of all of the projects that you have that are in motion in the pipeline, as well as some of the things that we may not have the opportunity to touch on.
I appreciate that. My socials are all Buddaman1. So BUDDAMANN1. And that's across the board for all of the platforms. My wife's is Trinity Cass, and so TRINITYCASS01 across every platform. Those are ways that y'all could get up with us or see what we got coming next. I just encourage anybody, whatever you do, be consistent for yourself. It all matters. All parts of it. People see entertainers at some point, and I say this often, they talk about they may think certain things are vain, or they're operating in vanity if they're trying to look a certain way and they work hard towards that. But you got to understand the whole picture when it comes down to things. And if somebody's consistent and healthy in their body, they understand that if they're not operating, there's a lot of people depending on them. And if they're not flowing and operating a certain way, there's a whole lot of people that they're going to let down. Like it just, and that's just a reminder of how important you all are yourself. There's people depending on you as an individual. So we got to be the best we can be mentally, physically, spiritually, all across the board, because we don't know who's watching us. We don't know who's gleaming from you. So in striving for excellence for yourself, then you're not looking all over the place and become another clone. Strive for success and consistency. If we're being consistent for ourselves, no matter what you're doing, you ain't worried about the numbers. You're being consistent for yourself. The numbers will come later. What you do in private, God will bless openly. So you consistently perfecting your craft. It could be an individual thing that we're doing, that there's so many things that you can't see are being birthed in that. You might think that, oh man, I'm learning how to operate this program, or I'm learning how to write this movie in final draft, and this is difficult and this, that, and the other. But you're learning so many things that you don't know how you're going to use them in the future. Nothing is for naught. If you do music, and I didn't know I used to operate in this principle. I would do something. If it didn't get picked, I used to honestly say back in the day, like, and it was more of a prideful thing then, but I understand more about it now. But I'd be like, oh, okay, that wasn't for them. It's going to go somewhere. Like you missed out for the most part. But that's really thinking about the fact that nothing is for naught. Anything that we're able to birth has purpose. And if we wait long enough, or we position ourselves in the right places, it's always going to find the place it's supposed to be. So be consistent for yourself, have yourself in the right place so you could be proactive and not reactive. Mind, body, spirit, be aligned. Be aligned, mind, body, spirit, because you don't know what you got coming ahead. If you've been eating donuts and it's time to run the race, you ain't going to be able to do it. And you ain't going to be able to put somebody on your back to help them too. You know what I mean?
That's real. And it goes
I love the quote. There's a quote that says something like, I helped push a man up the mountain, and I realized once I got him there, I was there also. Each one teach one.
Bars. And then also I wanted to highlight a component of what you were touched on as well. And it kind of ties back to what we were saying earlier, the importance of individuality and how we all have a purpose. That baby that was blessed to be born, that baby has a purpose. Everything that we do has a purpose, and that purpose is tied to our individuality. What is for me is for me. What's for you is for you. And if we're talking about eyewear and prescriptions, and I'm of a certain age that I can't see my phone like I used to, my prescription is going to be different than your prescription.
That's good.
I mean, a lot of times people, they want to do what worked for someone else, but you can't do that, because what's for you is for you. So if you just stick to what is on your spirit, don't worry about what you think is going to work. What speaks to your spirit? God puts some things on our heart, and then the enemy will try to manipulate our mind to convince us that what's on our heart, it can't be done. And if it's something that hasn't been done, that's the thing you should pursue, because that's going to put you in rare air, and that's going to speak to what? Your individuality and why you represent greatness. So, man, your boy got a couple of, I got a couple of bars. I got a little something.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, bro.
I think about my mom talking about babies having diapers, and they had cloth diapers. I can't even imagine. By the time we had kids, they perfected that thing. But can you imagine having a cloth diaper? and having to wash and clean consistently. So saying that to say, adversity brings forth inventions and new things, but you ain't, unless you had a baby, you won't know, hey, I don't want this cloth diaper. We got to figure out something else. And it may be hard, but once you do it, now that's the standard.
And to kind of piggyback on that, you know, who's had the most adversity than us? So
come on, man.
We've been the adversity that we've withstood, but that's why we represent greatness, because only God's people are going to be able to withstand what we've withstood over the years from being tucked from our homeland and then having to live through some of those atrocities that we've known, from slavery to Jim Crow, on and on and on. And we still stand. We still rise, as Maya Angelou said. We've had a 2-term Black president. So what's for us is for us. And if it's just a matter of, it's already preordained. And the only person that can stop you is the person in the mirror. So, man, I wanted to thank you for giving us so much of your time. Truly appreciate you sharing your journey. And also, I wanted to thank our viewers and listeners, whether you're watching us on YouTube or you're watching us on Spotify, or if you're listening on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Audible, iHeart, or Pandora. As you know, every week we bring you proven professionals and rising entrepreneurs. And all of these conversations, just like this one, will help you prepare for takeoff. Butter, thanks for joining us, my brother.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. Anytime.